All right, it is 3 p.m. in Finland, so let's get going with today's clinic. Welcome everybody. I can see some familiar partners online, and I know several people couldn't make this time, but we are recording the session so they can access this afterwards. So today's topic is group reporting in Firstbeat Life, some of the updates that you might have seen some news about it, but I'll quickly go through the updates and also cover the key parts of the group report in Firstbeat Life. I'm Tina Hoffman from Firstbeat, and we have 30 minutes today. I'll do 10 to 15 or maybe 15 minutes of presenting, and then I'll take questions after that. Any questions or comments or experiences are also welcome. You can write them in the Q&A, or we can also see if I'm able to turn on the microphones if somebody wants to speak, but Q&A works for sure. So let's get started. So updated group reporting in Firstbeat Life. I have a couple of slides, and then we'll actually go into the admin tool and take a look at where it's happening and also take a look at the actual report. So obviously the basic idea of group reporting is to allow you to get a status check of a group at an anonymous level. So the Firstbeat Life results of individuals as group results. And it allows you to monitor a specific group's well-being status over time, maybe over a specific project or period. And also you can make comparisons between different groups and teams. And it can help you identify things that you really need to focus on. And as before, the so-called automatically created monthly report that some of you have been using. So if you have a group that is using Firstbeat Life, for example, for 6 months at a time, you automatically will get a monthly report at the beginning of each month. That feature still remains. So if there is enough people who have done measurements in a given month, on the first of each month, you will get that report in your admin tool. So if that feature worked for you, you don't need to make any changes. You can just continue waiting for that on the first of the month. But then in addition to that, you can also create the group report now manually as needed. This has been a much wished feature because for many of you, the monthly report didn't work because you might have different periods. Your project might end at the half of the month and you need to summarize the previous 2 months, for example. So now you can create it when you need it and from the periods of your choice, and also from combined groups, or even, for example, from all of your clients for an overview. So this is just a quick overview of the feature and then a couple of highlights. So the main benefits before looking at the actual report is, of course, to help you identify factors that are supporting or weakening the group's health or well-being. So, for example, to see if there are some risks of developing more serious problems at group level. And also it will make it easier for you to target your actions. So if you're working with a company with a bunch of different individuals, but you constantly see that their physical activity levels are very low or they're sleeping very poorly, it helps you then target and make sure you're providing some additional content or perhaps lectures on those topics. Also, group comparison allows you to really make more targeted focus from each group, because the problems might not be same, for example, between the management team and a production or marketing team if you're comparing those kind of teams. So your decisions and targets and your actions are more based on actual data instead of sort of providing generalized default lectures for everybody. It helps the company can get more value for their money when you can really target your actions, and this can help you do that. And then the new feature, the part where you can create the group report when you need it. I know a few people online are probably very happy right now because this has caused some challenges in your types of projects. And so now you can create it monthly, quarterly, from all of your reports, all of your measurements in a month, or whenever a specific project ends and you, for example, have a group session with them. So this gives you a lot of required and highly needed flexibility with that. And I'm going to actually switch over now to the admin tool where I can show where it all happens. So now you can see the front page of the admin tool, and there you can, on the left hand toolbar, you can see this new tab called Reports. And so if you have a need to create this kind of manual report at a specific time, you can click the reports, and then it allows you to select which companies you want to include in that. So for example, if you have a specific group you want to do, then obviously you will select that, but maybe you want to do a quarterly review of all of your groups to provide some kind of a testimonial, for example, from all your measurements. So you can combine groups here as well. And then you can select the reporting period here, either one of the pre-selected ranges here, for example, from this quarter, last quarter, from this year, or when you have a specific project that started, for example, January 15th and ended on April 3rd, when you are having your final debrief session, you can determine the start and ending date here. And then after that, when you give the report a title, you can actually create the report. So just some kind of descriptive title that you will then know what it is. And then after that, it creates that report for you. So hopefully this will make it more easy and more flexible for you to get the reports when you need them. And then here you can see the tab for creating the reports, and next to it is previously created reports. The reports are only saved here for 1 month at a time, simply because of server space or capability limitations. So when you create a report, you can always find it here for a month, but after that you would just have to quickly recreate it if you need that. But you can also, of course, open it and then save it on your computer, for example, so that then you will always have that. But here the records are not kept longer than for 1 month. I'm going to show you the report that I've already created previously. So let's take a look at what it then actually looks like. It's quite familiar to those of you who have used the automatic report. You will notice that it's a little bit narrower in scope. So the automatically monthly created report, it also includes a segment here on the left called trends. This one, at least for now, doesn't have the trends view because it's been felt that the monthly regular comparing of group, then it's meaningful to compare the trend when you're creating the report always every month. But this kind of more randomly or from different periods reports, the trends view as such wasn't valid or wasn't so relevant, but it will probably be added in some form in the future. But for right now, you can see the overview and key results here. And then if you want to print or save the report, when you click this print report, you can select from here. Instead of print, you can select save it as PDF. So this is your way of saving it on your computer if you need that. Okay, and then we are on the front page of the group report now. So it shows the name that you gave to that report, and it shows what reporting period you have chosen. So the dates are shown here, and then you can see the number of measurements that were done during that measurement period and how many people out of the whole group had actually done measurements. So like in this case, this is a combination of some kind of demo groups that we have. So only 66 out of 356 people in this case have done a measurement in this reporting period. Then you can see the overall, let's go to the overview page at first. So first you see the overall Firstbeat Life group score, which is similar to the individual Firstbeat Life score in that it's a combination of stress and recovery balance, restorative effect of sleep, and health effects of physical activity. So all of those 3 sub areas have an equal weight on this overall score. On the left here, you see the score from 0 to 100 points, just the same principle as with individual report. If it's over 70 points, then it's shown as green. If it's under 30 points, then it would be shown up as red, as a poor result. And then on the right-hand side, you can see some of the distributions of how that average score is distributed to the different result categories. Here is the group's average on top, and then under that, you can compare it to the all industries, which means the general database, all of the data that we have of Firstbeat Life, so you can compare how that group compares to the general average. And this is really valuable, of course, always to look at the distribution, because you can see, for example, if most of the people, like in this case, about half of the people have a good or very good result, and nobody in this case has a very poor or red result. So of course, always a wider percent of the red results is something that you need to pay attention to. And under that, you can see some participant engagement numbers. This is based on the pre-questionnaire that they fill, the work satisfaction. You can compare that, for example, between groups and over time. Then what % of people set well-being goals via the Firstbeat Life app. And then also it shows what was the amount of recovery during work categorized into poor, moderate, and good categories. Gives you some idea if recovery during work was perhaps a problem. And good to keep in mind that recovery during work doesn't mean only breaks or resting or not working. It can also happen during meaningful work. If you're doing some kind of focused or deep work or enjoyable work, it's quite possible to show physiological recovery during that time. So no need to get alarmed if somebody shows 2 hours of recovery. It doesn't mean that they weren't working. And then at the bottom of the overview is the group status, 2 different kind of sort of categories, the risk categories on top, and then notifications at the bottom. And just as a reminder, there is more information about this in the online course. So if you don't recall listening to the recording there, you can go back and find a little bit more about the criteria here. But basically the risk categories are based on the overall score. So if there is a good overall score at group level, then a person is based in the low risk category. If the overall score is low, then it's a high risk category. And even just one measurement day is enough to be placed in this category. So this changes more over time because somebody might have in a specific month, they might have had a very challenging measurement and they might be in a high risk category. So as the project continues, it's good to compare what happens to these numbers. But then the notifications is sort of a more serious level because it requires at least 6 days of measuring. And in all of them, the result must have been poor. So the yellow line is people who have received a notification about poor recovery, means at least 4 out of the previous 6 measurements have a poor result on either sleep or stress and recovery balance. So this does not look at lack of physical activity. It specifically looks at problems with stress management and lack of recovery. And the red line means people who got actual health check recommendation, where 6 out of the 6 previous measurements all showed a poor result, under 30 points in either sleep or in stress recovery balance. So this doesn't come very easily. And whenever you get somebody who has gotten this notification, obviously it means that they are really having some kind of problems that you need to then hopefully coach and discuss with them. And you can also filter for these notifications on the front page of the admin tool. So if you have larger groups, you can immediately filter and see how many people have gotten notifications and who those individuals are. And then under key results, you see the familiar scores of stress and recovery balance, and the same kind of categorization on the right-hand side. So you can see how it's distributed to the different categories, and then also comparison to the database average restorative effect of sleep under that. And then there is health effects of physical activity. So the 3 main scores from the Firstbeat Life results here as group result. And then also fitness level is shown here. Here it's a bit different in that this is a percentile of the average result. So a 50 here means that it's at the same level as the database average, whereas like in this case, it's 62. It's not a milliliters per kilogram value, but it's a percentile value compared to the average. So this is slightly better than average. And on the right-hand side, you can see the distribution to different result categories. And finally, at the bottom, there is self-reported overall well-being. And this is sort of an average of the 10 questions that the client answers via the app. So it's not any one question, but it's an average of all the 10 questions. And this is particularly valuable also in follow-up projects where you're kind of following the progress of the group to see if, for example, this index is improving or what direction it's going. So that's the highlights of the group report. Probably not new to you. The biggest change is that now you can manually create that, and also at the same time, some of the language has been updated here a little bit. So you might notice some word changes, but the contents are pretty much exactly how they've been before. So that's my part, and now I'm happy to take questions. I noticed there is one question already, so let's see. This is an interesting question. You know, how logistically would 666 out of 300 people actually get a device to measure? So I mean, obviously this was a demo group that we had, so it wasn't a group that was going on all at once. It's something that we use for demo purposes, but of course, when you have larger groups, you have different ways of doing the actual device delivery, and you can discuss that with our customer success in more detail, but the basic principle is that you can order devices for yourself as bulk. If you know you have, for example, a group of 50 people starting a project, you can purchase 50 devices. And if you have a kickoff meeting, you could actually hand out the devices to them. Or it's also possible to use that initial idea that we had, that each client orders the device directly via the app as the project starts. So those are the two ways, either having bulk devices that you hand out to your clients, or clients ordering it directly via the app. And at the beginning of your project, you can decide which is the easier way for you to deliver those devices. Thank you. Have a great day.